So welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with RokoM, Michelle. And this week, it's interesting, we started off on one topic and kind of morphed to another, but the topic we landed on is the power of experimenting, which is so funny because we're in process improvement and that's our mindset. But I think there's so many different ways that you can take this, especially in leadership, but it's not about, just process improvement. So the quote, there's a couple of them. The first quote we're going to kick off with is Einstein's, "No amount of experimentation can ever prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong." And that, to me, when I read that the first time, I'm like, that is powerful stuff, right? Because it's the experimentation, you're going to go to where you're going to get closer and a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. But the one that fails, right, or proves me wrong on that thing, I think is the powerful one. And it goes to some other quotes around, there's so much learning and value in that whole cycle that we do. And when I think about this, it's about, as a leader, a lot of times I come across leaders that it has to be perfect, right? And everything has to be perfect. And so what I'll encourage people to do is, the whole idea of experimenting is get it close enough and then test it, right, on a small thing, and then iterate on that, and then it get close enough again. Because even when you think it's perfect, it's not.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. As far as I know, none of us have a crystal ball that tells us with certainty what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
We have assumptions, we have beliefs, we have, biases, we have egos. All of those things play into our habit of just saying it's one and done. And I know this thing is going to be the one thing, just as I'm saying it, and not having to iterate on it. And so whenever I get into a group and I sense that coming out, I literally say, "So who's got the crystal ball? Can I see it?" And in a playful,
I've never seen a real one
in a respectful way, of course. But it's to remind them that we don't know. I mean, the whole idea of scientific problem solving, or even just having that growth mindset, is that there is some element of uncertainty in whatever you're doing. And so because of that, the things that we're doing is a test. It's a test of change. Is this going to give me the results that I was intending, or am I going to have to do little iterations of it to get it to where I need it to be? Or, because rarely is the first time out of the gate going to get you everything that you thought.
Well, yeah. And the other thing that comes to mind too is, I recently had a leader in a coaching session that was talking, in fact, a couple leaders talking about how to engage their teams, right? So you want to engage the teams. How do I develop people? How to, and the thing is, you're going to want to get the input of the people on the team to find out what they want, right? What matters to them. Mm-hmm. That being said, the thing that you may launch with and move forward, the campaign, if you will, whatever that engagement strategy looks like, is a freaking experiment. Mm-hmm. Because, and I think the miss is, if you don't set yourself up with a mindset that it is an experiment, then you're just potentially going to do it and walk away. Yeah. And think you're fine. And so for me, it's that mindset, process improvement, engagement, whatever it may be, is when I think about experimenting, I think about, we're watching it. We're comparing it to what we thought would happen. We're going to get that feedback loop is in place so that we are in a position to make adjustments instead of going, we're good next. Who's next? And I think that's the important part, is that it's not just process improvement, experimenting, or science, if you will, but it's with people.
Yeah. And I know we talked about this too, is that, and the undertone of it is, and I think you have another quote to this, is that there's learning to be had about the process of experimenting, or the process that you're using, not just the result that you're going to get from the experiment. So you know, when it fails, sometimes it's a humbling process, right? And there's learning in that.
Yes.
So I think it just lends itself to that piece of it too.
This other quote, Simon Sinek, is the value of experimentation is not in the trying. It's trying again after the experiment fails. And there's what you just said, but there's also the fact that you have an intentional mindset that if this doesn't work, we're not going to abandon the whole thing, right?
Now we know a little bit more.
Yes.
You know, that's the true scientific mindset is, oh, now we know something more about this particular thing that we didn't know before, you know, and that to me is the power behind it, is that you can really get teams excited when they can come from that place of the failure is going to teach you something, something that you didn't know before because you didn't think of that consequence, you know, or you didn't think of this outcome, you know, from one step that you did, or, you know, whatever it is, but there's always something that you're learning, even with the failures.
Well, and so what just came to mind for me too is if you're a leader who's not familiar with process improvement or PDSA cycles, you know, plan, do, study, adjust, or ACT, or however you want to say it, or PDCA, same animal, check, act, is that you may say, that's not me. I don't know how to do it. I'm not really sure how to do it. Super freaking simple, right? Is that figure out this thing that you're going to do. And I'm going to back up a minute and say, be intentional about doing really good thinking before you set your plan. Okay. Don't just go, oh yeah, we're going to pick that one. Be intentional about what this plan is. Do the plan. You have some idea of the impacts it's going to have, everything else. Do the plan, study the results against actual, right? And then make adjustments, or if for some reason you found the silver bullet, okay, work the first time, standardize it, and then move on. But I think, Roko, the thing is start back here with your intention that we are going to experiment. And when you do that, you set yourself up differently for it, instead of this mindset of one and done, where literally you could end up abandoning it if for some reason it doesn't work. So I think that's the important thing too. You do not have to be trained in process improvement or anything else. Directionally correct, get yourself close. It's a mindset thing that you go into, but to your point, the learning. Yeah.
And there's so again, it's the iterations. What I love is, you know, when we do our problem solving teaching class, you know, from Margie Hagney, she tells that great backstory of the root cause analysis. They landed on a solution, but the backstory was it took them 20 plus times after they landed on that solution to land on the real solution, because they had to change it multiple times to get it to the point at which it was getting the results that they really wanted. So there is iterations and everything. I mean, and even, you know, you think in your personal life too, I mean, we do things, and just to build a habit, to get that proficiency, you have to keep testing different ways of doing things until you land on, okay, this is the way it's going to work for me, you know?
Yeah, well, it's getting ready in the morning, doing anything. It was so funny when you were talking about experiments. And I think about when you talk about the backstory, right? Is that particular story look like they just, boom, magically you brought the right people together and everything landed, and not the fact that it took them 6 months of all these 20 some experiment cycles before they landed on the right thing. And I think the same thing is when I think about, there was some show I was watching, it was actors, right? That, oh my God, you're an overnight success, or products that people sell, some company, overnight success. No, it was not an overnight success. And I think that's the point, is super important to share. Here's the path that we took, all the changes and iterations and everything we went through before we got it right. To be able to launch, for it to catch on. But the thing is, no one has visibility to it. It's kind of like underground until all of a sudden it services.
Yeah.
There is no overnight success. It's all those experiments, all those iterations, all that change. And just know that if you're doing the right thing and you've connected to why this matters and this is a thing to work on, stay the course.
Yeah.
Stay the course. I have one more quote.
Okay.
And I'm looking for it. This is: the failed experiments are as much a part of the process as the experiments that work.
Mhm.
So similar animal. But I super encourage people just to, it's a mindset, and then
Mhm.
set yourself up so you can do it. But you don't have to have templates, forms, anything else. It's a mindset.
Yeah, it definitely is a
So
mindset.
thank you for chatting about this. So Roko, what is one or two things that you would love for people to walk away with?
So I think the power is for experimenting is this idea that you're going to learn something that you didn't know before, whether it fails terribly or whether you have to iterate on it to get it to where it's at the desired outcome that you want.
Yeah.
Just there's just real power, whether it's inspiring, whether it's excitement, there's just power behind this mindset of you're going to learn something along.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Here's the thing that came to mind for me is don't let, and believe me, I'm a recovering one. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress.
Yeah.
So that I think is the learning for me, right? So if you do have the mindset, we're going to experiment, you go into it knowing it's an experiment, you get your team on board with that, there's going to be learning and everything involved in it, then you're not going to hold back and waiting for perfect, which really isn't, it's an illusion, right? And then people can be doing something and working toward it, and it's freaking motivating.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's striving for it.
Yes. So I love it. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Leadership Soundbites, Power of Experimenting with RokoM Michele. And until next time.
Bye.